we're going to do a few different segments today. Obviously, it's the end of the regular season, so half of our show we dedicate towards fantasy basketball. So today we're going to go through the Fantasy Season Awards. Okay, this is the Ball Boys Fantasy Season Awards. So very prestigious event for all those involved. We're going to start right at the top here, and we're going to award the Fantasy MVP. We're going to have 3 nominees and then the winner as well. So, Cal, do you want to throw out who you have as sort of 3 worthy contenders for this award?
So the fantasy MVP, I have Nikola Jokic as a nominee.
Yep.
I also have Steph Curry as a nominee.
Yep.
And I've also thrown a bit of surprise out there and put in Big Vucevic as an MVP, just because he was a bit of a steal where you got him and he could carry. So those are my 3 MVP candidates. Do you agree?
I do. We're in complete agreement. I think this one's a pretty easy one because all I sort of really did was flick on the total team awards, like the cumulative of the season, and these were literally 1, 2, and 3. So if you drafted one of these guys, or even potentially 2 of these guys, like yourself, Callum, you would have had a good year. Although it doesn't always ensure that you win. So, I think these are great players. That none of them were drafted. I don't think maybe Steph was in the top 5, but few jumps up the rankings from these guys. So most of them played most of the games throughout the year. I think on a per rank value, Jokic and Steph were 1 and 2. Vucevic down a bit, but obviously Vuce had played a lot of games. Lots of injuries up the top of the league this year. So I think these are pretty much the clear standouts for this award. Do you, probably not a huge surprise, who's your winner in this award?
It's got to have to be Nikola Jokic. He fits any build. He is not a liability at all. 26, 10, and 8. Like those assists for a center is absolutely huge. The steals are elite as well. I guess you can punt. Go ahead.
I can't believe this. I was going to say, I can't believe the steals kept up the whole season. I was really surprised of all the stats at that particular stat the most.
He's known for the steals. He's a smart, feisty player. So
I wouldn't say he's known for the steals, but yeah, he is a crafty player. But fantasy wise, I think this is by far the highest he's had. He obviously started. I think there was one point he's averaging 1.8 steals a game, so it did come down, but still to nearly get 1.5. Like that's pretty great. He got more steals than Steph Curry this year per game.
That's a surprise.
Yeah, not very, very, very surprising. I agree. Jokic, regular season MVP, fantasy MVP, played 72 games, didn't miss a single game. So it's just the clear choice per game, total value. He's runaway favorite. So congrats if you drafted Nikola Jokic. Let's go into... you're welcome. Let's go into probably not the award you want to win, but the bust of the year, the pick that you had to just tearing out your hair. Let's hear the nominees for you here, Cal.
So my 3 nominees, I put Anthony Davis as a nominee. Then have Devin Booker as another nominee, followed by Hassan Whiteside, and then a bit of an honorable mention to Eric Bledsoe, who had an absolutely shocking season.
Yes, Eric Bledsoe did have a shocking season. I'm sure we all dropped him, or should have dropped him halfway through the season. I think he's a bit back towards the end of the roster.
Yes, he was an honorable mention
to nominate here. Yeah, I agree with Anthony Davis. Never thought I would pick that at the start of the year. I thought, this guy's a lock to be, top 2 or 3. He's been consistent every single year, so that really surprised me. And for that reason, he's a big bust. I'm going to throw out a couple of names that you didn't mention. We can discuss who stays in and who doesn't. Yusuf Nurkic is on my list here. He was very hyped in the preseason. I was very high on him, as a lot of other fantasy pundits were. Came in hot in the bubble last year, averaging those huge numbers, was drafted in the 2nd round in some places, or if not the 2nd, the 3rd round. Often one of your first bigs picked. Was shit all year at the start of the year, got injured with that broken hand. The only thing that saves him is that towards the end of the year, he did start to show his potential. But by then, I think for most teams that drafted him, it was a bit of too little too late from that point. So I'm going to nominate Nurkic. What are your thoughts on him? Would you have him over any other ones that you Can I sway you to take
It's
off?
a good one. Just the lack of games is, and even you look at his stats. I mean, he only put up 11 points a game, so you definitely could sway me. His preseason rank was 34, and he dropped to 114. So that is a shocker for the entirety of the season.
Yeah.
I'd happily throw him in. I guess maybe over Hassan. He was, but he's been shocking too. He was 50
Hassan's.
in the
I think
preseason and dropped to 310.
I think I want to give Hassan a bit more of a shout out than Devin Booker. I know Devin Booker's ranking doesn't look too good next to his 10 in the preseason rankings. He's ranked 78th on Yahoo for total per game value, but you've got to take into account the fact that he's got a high turnover. It's the steals and blocks that drag him right down. So
and even his threes were kind of low this season as well. Like,
yeah, but he still gave you 25 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. The percentages are both excellent. So I don't know. I have a hard time giving him the top 3 bust selection. Even though he was disappointing, I think there are worse busts out there.
Yeah, that's fair. Look, I'll take Devin out, and we can throw your man in, Nurkic.
All right, here's where I want to have a discussion between another big man and Hassan Whiteside. Who was the biggest disappointment? And maybe this is a bit of my own personal feelings, but I do remember there was some hype with this guy in the bubble again. I know he was injured at the start of the season, but still, Jaren Jackson Jr. is has to be in consideration as the bust pick of the year.
How could I forget? How could I forget?
I mean, yeah, just sucks. Like, I was already out of the playoffs by the time he decided to play a game. So for me, he's my biggest bust of the season, because obviously I drafted him, I think, in the 7th round or something like that. So literally just wasted a pick, just threw out my pick. I had one less pick than everyone else. So yeah, that one stings a little bit. Do you think we get him over Hassan? I know Hassan basically got so bad that you had to drop him pretty quick. So maybe that's worse over an injury. I'm not sure.
Look at the preseason rank. I guess they are kind of similar. Preseason was 67 for Jaren Jackson Jr. And then his total value ended up being 354, which is no surprise. He didn't play any games. So I think that is a good pick. They're pretty similar. I mean, Hassan was 50 down to 310. So that's a pretty outrageous drop as well. I think, look, let's open up the 4 worthy candidates and take a pick, eh?
Yeah. I think they're all pretty shocking. I mean, I know it's not Jaren Jackson's fault. It's probably more Memphis's fault for not telling us anything about the injury beforehand. So maybe, if there was different reporting out there, it would have saved a lot of fantasy coaches from making that selection. But here we are. So we've got to give it to one of these guys. Who do you want to nominate as the number 1?
I'm gonna say, look, it's gonna have to be Anthony Davis with the injury, because I would have even considered picking him number 1. I feel like most comps he went 1 or 2, and he just didn't play enough games, especially in the regular season. So sorry, Anthony Davis, but
look,
you're my bust of the year.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one. Let's put him through as the bust of the year. It sucks to say it. I never thought I would say it, but even when he was healthy, he wasn't good. Like, he wasn't Anthony Davis. He was 24th ranking per year, and for a man who has been a top 5 consistently every single year for like the past 5 years, that's just extremely disappointing. And the difference between a top 3 player and like ranked 24, 25 is like the difference between rank 25 and rank 100. It's the value is so concentrated in those first few players that drop off is very significant. So, you pick him in your first round, you've basically nearly lost your league from that selection alone.
Yeah, I mean, like, the points are down so much as well. Like the free throws percentage dropped so much. And as you said, from 3 to 25, and that's a per game ranking. If you look at if you consider all the games he missed, he's 139. So
that's awful. That really is awful. So yeah, sucks if you drafted him. Nothing you could have really done, because I would have picked him maybe first had I, we had the James Harden news at the start of the year that was a bit unsure. So I think I had him moving up to the top spot, or if not the top 2. So you live and you learn. But where do you think he goes next year? Where do you draft Anthony Davis next year after a season like this? He's still first round, do you think?
He's definitely still first round. He's
Yeah.
just going to be probably around, I think, the second half, 5 to 10 range.
Yeah, yeah. Like Jokic is obviously going ahead of him. Do you
Yeah,
take Towns ahead of him?
that's a good question. Um, that's a good question. It's pretty. It'd be a flip a coin at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it depends if you want the blocks because he's still averaged more blocks than him, but the points, rebounds, assists, threes, they're all less. Yeah, everything except for blocks really and steals. Um, so I don't know. That's a close one for me. I know there is a fair bit of talent in Minnesota, but so maybe yeah, it's hard to know without knowing the rosters. But that will be interesting to see where he lands. Let's go into the next category though. I'll throw it to you. This one's a bit of a tough one, I reckon. We've got sleeper of the year. So someone that we've drafted, someone that was probably drafted in the top 150, who came home and delivered us some high value for the entire season. Who have you got? Give us some names for sleeper pick of the year.
So the three candidates I've nominated is Scary Terry, Chris Boucher,
Oh, I like
and
it.
Julius Randle are my three
Okay.
sleepers.
I like all the names there. I had Scary Terry in there. I had Julius Randle in there, and I was tossing up between Boucher and another name, Rashawn Holmes, as another sort of candidate. Someone who was drafted around the 100 mark, um, like in the pre rankings, but was very solid all season. Finished on a per game basis, ranked 38. I do like Boucher. Obviously, I drafted him. He's had a season ranking of 41. The only thing that made me sort of hesitant was the fact that he was so inconsistent and, was injured towards the end of the year when we needed him the most. But again, you drafted him with your last pick. So I don't know. I'm splitting hairs here. What
Look,
made you?
I'll do a coin flip. Let's go with John Holmes. I think you're right. He was every game he was putting up good numbers.
Yeah,
I regret not having him on my list. I'd put him over Chris Boucher personally. Great blocks, low turnovers, amazing field goal. He played a lot of games. When you
yes.
consider the games played, he jumps up to 30th rank for the season. So I'll give it to Rashawn Holmes.
Yeah, I think that's where I was leaning towards, just because not only the games played, but the timing of when Boucher was out. The
Yeah.
fact that he missed like the last however many games he played, that one game randomly where he scored 37, played 37 minutes, and then just sat out the rest of the season as the Raptors were tanking. But yeah, he wasn't there for your fantasy playoffs. So I think that's a big knock to him. So who have we got? Rashawn Holmes, Julius Randle, and
Scary Terry Rozier.
Rozier. So I guess it's between Randle and Terry Rozier, big versus small. Who's your pick there?
My pick would have to be Terry Rozier. I just think I was a bit of a hater. I think I had him on my team last season. I thought he would have a better season than he did have. But this season he just exploded. He was great. They brought a new point guard in. No one knew it was going to happen. But he jumped from the 144th in the preseason up to the 33rd ranking, just on a stats baseline. So that's 24-4 with 1.3 steals. Pretty reasonable field goal at 45%. Very low turnovers as well, 1.9 turnovers. So it's just a turnover ratio. Great. Well, when you consider the games played, he gets boosted to the 14th rank for the season because he didn't miss many games. He had a few 40-point games. He went off. He was also even one of the most clutch players in the league in terms of close games, last 5 minutes. Scary Terry was a top 5 player on that end. So I got to give it to him. Sleeper of the year.
Sleeper of the year. I don't mind it. I'm leaning more. See, I had a tough one with this one. I've been so impressed with Julius Randle this year. I've just been so impressed.
Give him the most improved award for regular season.
Yeah, in the last month, he's ranked higher than Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier was probably drafted a bit later. We expected LaMelo Ball to take the show away from him. He probably benefited from a couple of injuries, but that's not his fault. He did the best he could. I don't know.
Preseason, Julius Randle was 80. Scary Terry was 144.
Maybe just because I've never rated Julius Randle until this season. Maybe that's just letting me. But 25 points a game, 5.8 assists, Cal. 5.8 assists. And his free throw percentage went up to 84%. Never saw that coming. Nearly 3 threes a game. in the last
The
month
threes
of the
as well
season.
is pretty crazy.
Like
So
just production from where you wouldn't have expected. I don't know. I think I'm struggling. So if you're more confident with Rozier, I'm happy to lean that way. I think it's a close race, but if you're happy with Rozier, we're gonna give him the award?
I think the decider is on the preseason rank because they both
Yeah.
ended up. Julius Randle was 16th, and then Scary
Yes.
Terry was 14th when you consider games played and stats. So
Yeah.
pretty
Okay.
even. So I'll
Yep.
give it for the preseason rank. I think.
Okay. I think that's a good factor. I think the fact that you got him later in drafts. Yeah, we'll hand it to our man Scary Terry. Obviously, I think you're drafting Julius Randle over Terry next year, but just for this year, with a bit of luck involved with a few injuries, I think that Terry is deserving to win that. Last sort of positive award of the night, very prestigious award, a title-winning award in some circumstances, but waiver wire pick of the year. So these are players that chances are, unless you were a really deep league, these players were listed mostly outside the top 150 or were dropped at one point and were on the waiver wire shows that we did and ads and stuff that we did, who turned the tide and came home strong at the right time or were good production throughout the whole season. So I'll throw it to you, Cal. Give us some names for the waiver wire pickup for the year.
So I've only got a couple, so I'll let you throw your names in the bag.
Okay. Yep.
So I've got Kelly Olynyk, who he definitely turned it on at the right time.
Insane.
So he's been playing very well, and then I actually put up TJ McConnell as a bit of a waiver wire ad. So those are my couple. Please feel free to throw some more names in the pool.
Yes, I think those were the two clear standouts. I agree with you. I had trouble with the third one because TJ McConnell was just so solid in those categories all season. Never really saw it coming. Never saw much upside in him, but just those steals and assists, field goal percentage was just awesome.
The amount of times I'd look at TJ, like I'm looking at the box score, and it's like 15 assists and 3 steals. It was crazy. It was like I was so impressed. I was so pissed he wasn't on my team.
Yeah, those huge spikes, especially in a head-to-head league, like those huge spikes are just, absolutely crazy and very valuable to your team. We'll talk about Kelly Olynyk, I think, in a second. My third guy I'm going to throw out there is Thaddeus Young for the Chicago Bulls.
I picked him up. He was a good ad. I liked him.
Yes, he was great. I had him on my team for a stretch before finally dropping him. But then again, he came good towards the end of the season in playoff time. So, just keeps getting it done. Like we keep writing him off. We keep thinking the Bulls are gonna, Larry Markkinen and all these guys. But nope, Thaddeus Young still finds a way to get minutes. Brings the assists now as well as the defensive stats. Good field goal percentage. So I'll throw his hat into the mix as well. I think that the winner is pretty obvious here. Cal, do you want to do the honors?
I think it's got to be Kelly for me.
Yes,
like Kelly Olynyk. He turned it on at the right time. He had a few 11 assist games. Like his steals were through the roof. His overall season rank, and considering games played, is 28th. He was 66th if you consider the full season, and that's coming off the bench a fair bit. Obviously with Houston, he put together some crazy stats. Let's have a look at the past month. So pretty much your playoff time of the year for fantasy. This guy was the 22nd ranked player, putting up about 29 and 5.5 assists on 1.9 steals as well. Like it's just so elite.
Can we just highlight that again? The 22nd ranked player, Kelly Olynyk, in the last month. In
the playoff period.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? I know we highlighted him on as an ad when the trade deadline came. I think we did highlight him as a bit of a winner, but we're just like, oh yeah, I guess he'll win a little bit, but mate, never saw this happening. Like those assists and steals. Like, where did this come from? Like, he had consistent back-to-back games, 3 steals, 7, 8 assists, 11 assists, triple doubles. Like, what the damn hell? Where do you draft Kelly Olynyk next year? What do we do with this? Like,
if he's a free agent, I believe. So if he re-signs, he's going to make money. There's going to be people after him now. So it really does depend where he goes, I think. If he's still in Houston, I mean, sure. Is he worth a second round pick?
No, I'm not going to get that excited. But I think, maybe, I don't know, maybe he gets in the top 100 if you know he's starting or something like that, if he's can put together, top 22 months. But I don't know. It's so hard with a player like that. Just gets hot on a trash team. I don't know. It's going to take a bit of digesting, but obviously the clear winner in this category here. So shout out to Kelly Olynyk, the Canadian. All right, let's go on to this. Is probably not really a award, but just want to have a chat. If you have any on your never again list, this is a bit sarcastic because I don't really believe in never again lists because everyone's worth something at the right price, but people like to talk about it. So, do you have anyone from this season who you just never going to draft ever again?
There was a couple players. I feel like I did go over a couple of the names before the draft this season, which was Blake Griffin and Kevin Love, and their value for the season was proved. I think I was correct on those picks.
Yeah, I think you were.
After this season, I'm gonna have to say probably Steven Adams. Just I would never even consider drafting ever again. He was preseason ranked at 74th, and he was getting minutes, and he was still only 194th.
Yeah.
So he's definitely not a target for me in future years. Another person is a guy who's ranked the 69th player, pretty much with a bit of hype though. He could turn it around, but Kobe White, I just think he's probably locked into that 6-man role now. So unless it's like, maybe I could pick him up in the waiver wire if I need some points. But if he's not starting, I don't see his stats ever being really contributing too much to fantasy.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'll throw out some obvious names. You've got Hassan Whiteside for me. I just think,
of course,
I tried to stream him in towards
Eric
the end of the
Bledsoe
season.
actually as well. My honorable mention for the bust, I'll throw in there.
Yeah, I was going to say his name in a second. Yeah, so he's definitely one. Just back on Whiteside, he's just so shit. I don't think he's. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to play in the NBA again. Personally, I think his career's over. If it didn't work on the Kings when they've got no centers, I don't think you're an NBA player anymore. So I'm going to say bye-bye to Hassan Whiteside. I'm also going to say goodbye to Andre Drummond. I don't think I'm ever going to draft Andre Drummond again because I'm just worried that from here on out, I'm not sure if he's a starting NBA player. The problem is, even in backup minutes, he's still going to put up stats. But I'm just worried that his name value is going to always be higher than what I'm willing to pay. So when I say never again, I don't foresee myself drafting him. But say I get him at stupid value and it fits my team build, which odds are pretty low. Then I'll draft him. But I really don't see that happening. He was a 36th ranked player preseason. Had a huge chunk of the season when he was just waiting to be traded. Yes, he got some minutes for the Lakers, put up some huge rebound numbers, but I don't know. I don't know if the Lakers are going to want him back. I don't really know where he's going to go. He's a free agent. Maybe sign somewhere like with Toronto or something like that. I don't know, but I just think that his name value is too high of a price that I'm willing to pay for Drummond. I don't think he's a good player.
Yeah, it depends a bit on, I guess, who he re-signs with. But I'm in your court as well.
Yeah.
You have to get value there, and his free throws do hurt you so much that if he's in a reduced role, it's just not worth it.
I'll throw some more names out to you. Just get your opinion on where they're at. John Wall. What are your thoughts on John Wall this year? He had a little bit of hype before the preseason, but had some moments, but ultimately was a bit of a letdown, a bit of a disappointment. Injuries obviously were there, and also the fact that he was playing for a tanking team.
I mean, was he really a letdown though?
I mean, he was 147th ranked player on a per game basis. So even if
he was still putting up 20 points and 7 assists. I mean, his field goal was atrocious. Yes, I mean turnover is pretty average, but like he hadn't played a game in about 2.5 years. I feel like maybe next season now he's got a bit more time under his belt. He looks good at moments. So I wouldn't rule it out personally.
But that's why he's on my. That's why he's on my list. I don't know. Like him and like Westbrook. Everyone's like, oh yeah, they're so good. 20 points, 7 assists, but you get fuck all. The percentages are crap.
Yeah,
you get
40% field goal
in terms of rebounds. There's 3.5 turnovers a game. Yeah, maybe he's probably less of a burn on your percentages compared to Westbrook, but I don't know. The injury risk in there as well. I think he's declining. Depends where he ends up. Again, name value, I think pumps his value up a bit too high for me.